President.
Majority Leader.
Pass unanimous consent the call of the quorum be terminated.
Without objection.
Are we now on the motion to proceed to S3412?
We are, sir.
I have a cloture motion that desk I wish to have reported.
Clerk will report.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, hereby move to bring to a close the debate on the motion to proceed to calendar numbered 467-S3412, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to provide tax relief to middle-class families, signed by 17 senators as follows: Reed of Nevada, Baucus, Udall of New Mexico, Stabenow, Begich, Whitehouse, Levin, Casey, Harkin, Carper, Coons, Mikulski, Merkley, Gillibrand, Inouye, Blumenthal, Warner.
Mr. President, I ask consent that the mandatory quorum required under Rule 22 be waived.
Without objection.
I note the absence of quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
President.
Senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, I ask consent to call the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to executive session to consider the following nomination, which the clerk will report.
Nomination, the Judiciary, Michael A. Shipp of New Jersey to be United States District Judge.
Roll call on the... Yes. And, I ask unanimous consent that the cloture motion be withdrawn and that there be time equally divided between now and the hour of 5:30 for debate, divided in the usual form. Upon the use or yielding back of time, the Senate proceed to vote without intervening action or debate in the nomination. The motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate. That no further motions be in order. The related statements be printed in the record. That the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate then resume legislative session.
Without objection.
Mr. President, would it always be that easy? I thank the distinguished presiding officer, distinguished not only his first service here in the Senate, but as governor of one of the most beautiful states, one of the most beautiful states in the Union. And, Mr. President, before we begin, so many others have said this, it would be impossible to state the amount of horror and sadness felt by my wife Marcel and I at the news what happened in Colorado. I was reminded again today as I saw the flags lowered to half-staff on this Capitol building think of the Capitol as being a bastion of democracy. The light that sort of shines to the rest of the world of what democracy is. Unfortunately, so much of the world has seen the acts of a madman. It is safe to say the one thing that would unite every senator in both parties here is that our hearts go out not only to those who have been injured, obviously to the families of those who have died, and to the people of that wonderful community, because it's impossible for any one of us here to know how long or how hard that will hold in their heart. The number of people who say, as we all do, we just went to a movie. Every one of us have done that. Our children go to movies, our grandchildren go to movies. You expect them to go, have a good time, and come back and enjoy the thought of it. What they saw here is horrible. So, Mr. President, I realize I've taken extra time in doing that, but I just wanted to say that. Now, we have before us a federal trial court nomination, that of Michael Shipp. It was voted on by the Senate Judiciary Committee more than 3 months ago, supported nearly unanimously by both Republican and Democratic senators who reviewed it nearly 3 months ago. Judge Michael Shipp has served as a U.S. magistrate judge in the District of New Jersey since 2007. He's presided over civil and criminal matters and issued over 100 opinions. He's the first African-American United States magistrate judge in that district. Incidentally, I think most of us who have spent any time in the Senate know that what a complete waste of time to have a cloture vote on such a matter as this. So I appreciate the fact that the Republican leader has consented that we could withdraw the cloture vote. Democrats did not want to have to file cloture on this, but after 3 months we did want to vote on Judge Shipp. It's actually the 29th judicial nominee of President Obama for which the majority leader has been forced to file for cloture and a filibuster and get up or down vote, but I'm pleased we'll not be able to vote on Judge Shipp. So I said the first African-American United States magistrate judge in that district, presided over civil and criminal matters, issued over 100 opinions. I wish that the Republicans would stop filibustering Judge Patty Schwartz of New Jersey, who was nominated to the Third Circuit, and Richard Taranto was nominated to the Federal Circuit. And I wish they'd stop filibustering two Circuit Court nominees who have the support of both their home state Republican senators, William Kayada of Maine to the First Circuit, and Judge Robert Bacharach of Oklahoma to the 10th Circuit. Republicans are filibustering highly qualified nominees supported by the Republican senators of their state. Do we really want to start this kind of a precedent? Do we really want to be the precedent of the Senate? I realize they've established a different qualification for President Obama than they did the other presidents I've served with, President Ford, President Carter, President Reagan, President George H.W. Bush, President Clinton, President George W. Bush. Somehow we have a different standard for President Obama. Do they really want to establish this as being the standard? Do they not think that someday there may be a Republican president and know that that's the standard that they want? It would happen there. During the past 5 presidential election years, Senate Democrats have never denied an up or down vote to any circuit court nominee of a Republican president who received bipartisan support in the Judiciary Committee. It's 20 years, 5 presidential election years. In fact, during the last 20 years, only 4 circuit nominees reported the bipartisan support had been denied an up or down vote by the Senate. All 4 were nominated by President Clinton. and blocked by Senate Republicans. This entire year, the Senate has yet to vote on a single Circuit Court nominee who was nominated by President Obama this year. Since 1980, the only presidential election year in which there were no circuit nominees confirmed, nominated that year was in 1996, when Senate Republicans shut down the process against President Clinton's circuit nominees. There's no good reason the Senate should not vote on consensus nominees like Judge Shipp, more than a dozen other consensus judicial nominees to fill federal trial court vacancies in Iowa, California, Utah, Connecticut, Maryland, Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, New York, and Pennsylvania, all those states being denied federal judges, people that have bipartisan support, all of whom could have been confirmed with a voice vote. There's no good reason why the Senate shouldn't vote the nomination of William Kayada of Maine to the First Circuit, Judge Robert Bachrach of Oklahoma to the Tenth Circuit, Richard Toronto to the Federal Circuit, or Judge Patty Schwartz of New Jersey to the Third Circuit. Incidentally, not only was she supported by both the senators from New Jersey, but Governor Christie of New Jersey. So I'm glad we're finally going to do this one, because every week lost is another in which injured plaintiffs are having to wait to recover the cost of medical expenses, lost wages, other damages. Every month is another drag on the economy as small business owners have to wait to have their contract disputes resolved. We get paid whether we show up for work or not. Why don't we let these 20 nominees go to work for the American people? So, Mr. President, I ask my full statement to be made part of the record. I see the distinguished senior senator from New Jersey on the floor. If he seeks the floor, I'll yield to him. Otherwise, I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Senator from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to talk about
Senator,
I ask unanimous consent that the calling of the roll be dispensed with.
without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I thank the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who always has things of relevance to talk to us about, and he's done that again today, and we thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, Mr. President, one can address the public at large on this day, so soon after a tragedy of enormous proportion. And I plan to talk about a confirmation vote coming up on the floor, but I wanted to take just a few moments to discuss the events that took place in Aurora, Colorado, Friday. And the one thing that a question arises to is, what do we do beside weep with these people? What do we do beside feel sad and see a gloom hanging over our country? What do we do about this? What do we want to do to prevent it in the future? That's going to be the test of the general character of this body and others in government. So many promising young lives were lost, changed forever. We see pictures of those who lost a loved one on our newspapers. It's heartbreaking just to look at those pictures. And, Mr. President, what I sensed in my visits around New Jersey today and over the weekend is a certain kinship that you feel with the people who are mourning the loss of a child, an 8-year-old, or a daughter or son husband or wife. You feel there's certain kinship. You can feel the sadness, and it's depressing, and it's not the kind of characterization we like to see in the United States, and the young lives lost forever. But our duty in this body is not simply to mourn and offer our condolences. We want to do that. We want those families who lost someone to understand that we, in some strange way, join them in their mourning. But the best way to prove our sadness, the best way to prove that we really care, is to take action to protect young, innocent lives. And on that score, we don't rank very high. I remember so clearly the time, 1999, pictures of high school young people hanging out of the window, imploring for help, imploring to be saved, just heartbroken at what they're seeing and what they're feeling. So we have to do something more. The gun laws on the books in the United States are outdated, and we even let key protections expire. It's tragic. In the coming days, I'm sure some of my colleagues and I will be discussing specific measures, common sense measures, because when it comes to our gun laws, what we need to do is act before another outburst of gun violence overtakes us with the terrible consequences that brings. Mr. President, around here, we have opportunities to do great things. And I have one of those, I believe, today, an opportunity that I take with great pleasure to come to the floor to strongly endorse Judge Michael Shipp for a position on the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey. Judge Shipp brings an impressive background to the bench. To start, he was born in Paterson, New Jersey, as was I. It's a city of significant poverty and difficulty. But he rose up from humble beginnings in Paterson to graduate from Rutgers University and Seton Hall Law School, two of New Jersey's fine educational institutions. Judge Shipp has dedicated his career to our justice system, and he spent much of it in public service. And I learned so much about him in my meeting with him, that not only does he bring a sincerity about wanting to do the right thing, but he has the knowledge and the sensitivity that will make him a terrific district court judge. He began his career as a law clerk to a New Jersey Supreme Court Justice, James H. Coleman, Jr. He then served in the office of New Jersey's Attorney General, where he developed not only a thorough legal expertise, but also real leadership acumen. As counsel to the Attorney General, he oversaw 10,000 employees, including 800 attorneys. For more than a decade, Judge Shipp has taught our state students as an adjunct law professor at Seton Hall University. Since 2007, he has served New Jersey and our nation as the United States Magistrate Judge in the District Court. In this capacity, he's conducted proceedings in both civil and criminal cases, and it's include rulings on motions, issuing recommendations to district court judges, and performing district court judge duties in cases with magistrate jurisdiction. With this experience, Judge Shipp is going to be well prepared to serve on the district court. Mr. President, the law, our Constitution, are greatest denominators of our democracy, and the judges are the faithful stewards to protect these precious guidelines of our opportunity. And that's why I consider, as a senator, this a sacred duty given by the Constitution to carefully select judicial nominees and provide the President with advice and consent. Our faith in the legal system depends on just application of the law as it is soundly written law. And Judge Shipp has served New Jersey extraordinarily well, eminently qualified. His broad experience will prepare him well for his new role, and I have no doubt that he'll continue his excellence as a judge on the United States District Court. Mr. President, the success of our democracy depends on all of our citizens receiving equal and just representation before the law. And as leaders in our judicial system, judges hold that equality and justice in their hands. It means they must be fair-minded, honorable, humble, and I'm confident that Judge Shipp is going to make a terrific judge. He's highly qualified to meet this challenge, and I urge my colleagues to support this confirmation. With that, I yield the floor.
The senator from New Jersey.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that I be recognized for 4 minutes, and following my 4 minutes that the distinguished senator from Iowa, ranking of the Judiciary Committee, be recognized for 6 minutes.
Is there objection? Without objection?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to strongly support the nomination of Judge Michael Shipp for the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey. All of us in New Jersey, everyone who has dealt with him, everyone who knows him, is very familiar with Judge Shipp's strong qualifications and reputation for excellence. He is an exceptional candidate for the federal bench, an accomplished jurist with impressive credentials. I recommended Judge Shipp to President Obama, and I urge all of my colleagues in the Senate to support his nomination as the Judiciary Committee did. With almost 5 years' experience as a federal magistrate judge for the District of New Jersey, he is well prepared to assume a seat as a federal district judge. As a magistrate, he has successfully managed significant and complex cases. On occasion, Mr. President, he has served as the district court judge in cases with magistrate jurisdiction. First 8 years of his distinguished legal career was spent in the litigation department at the law firm of Skadden Arps, Slate, Merger, and Flom. In 2003, he turned to public service to give something back to the community as an assistant attorney general for consumer protection in the Office of the Attorney General of New Jersey, where he honed his expertise in consumer fraud, insurance fraud, and securities fraud cases. Judge Shipp clearly excelled. He was twice promoted within the office, first as a liaison to the Attorney General and second as counsel to the Attorney General. As counsel, he was in charge, in essence, of day-to-day operations of the Department of Law and Public Safety, a department with over 10,000 employees and 800 attorneys. An accomplished jurist, an experienced prosecutor, a dedicated public servant, and an effective administrator and manager as well. That's Michael Shipp. It's what all of us in New Jersey have known him to be. Now, Judge Shipp has not stayed on the sidelines. Even with a full plate, he has been deeply involved in the legal community in helping address the profession's needs and concerns. He held a leadership role with the New Jersey State Bar Association, actively involved with the Garden State Bar Association, which is the Association of African American Lawyers. As a faculty member of Seton Hall University School of Law's Summer Institute for Pre-Legal Studies, he helped disadvantaged students develop their interest in the law. He served on the faculty of the New Jersey Attorney General's Advocacy Institute, which ensures that attorneys representing the state of New Jersey maintain the highest possible levels of professionalism. Mr. President, Judge Shipp is also a very proud New Jerseyan, part of the community with deep roots in the state. A native of Paterson, he grew up and has lived in New Jersey all his life. He's earned his degrees from Rutgers State University, Seton Hall University School of Law, and after graduating, he went on to clerk for the Honorable James Coleman, a former justice on the Supreme Court of New Jersey. Put it simply, Michael Shipp will be an extraordinary district court judge for the District of New Jersey. He is a man of honor, principle, and he possesses an excellent judicial temperament, has extraordinary legal experience, and a deep and abiding commitment to the rule of law. Mr. President, I have full confidence that he will serve the people of New Jersey and the country with all the dignity, fairness, and honor that he has shown throughout his extraordinary career. We are lucky to have a nominee of his caliber, and I wholeheartedly urge the full Senate to vote to confirm Judge Shipp to the District of New Jersey. I'm thrilled that we're actually going to a confirmation vote, not a cloture vote, and I appreciate those who made that possible. And with that, I yield the floor to my distinguished colleague from Iowa.
Mr. President,
Senator from Iowa.
before I speak about this judge, I'd like to, when my colleagues come over to vote, I hope they'll take note of a constituent of mine, Taylor Morris, a Navy wounded person from Afghanistan who was an explosive expert, lost parts of 4 limbs. He's at the bottom of the escalator as you go to the subway. And wish him well, because he's one of our wounded heroes, and I'd like to have my constituent or my colleagues recognize him. Also, it's a very sad weekend, and for a long period of time in Aurora. And I heard the remarks of the majority and minority leaders today expressing condolence for the victims and their families. I want to associate myself with those remarks and say for myself condolences to all the people of Aurora, but particularly to those who have deceased family members and those who are hospitalized because of this tragic event that happened there. I support the nomination of Michael A. Shipp, a district judge, New Jersey, currently serving as a U.S. magistrate, coming out of committee on voice vote. I'm not aware of any controversy regarding this nominee, and I expect he will be confirmed with an overwhelming vote. There has been a bit of discussion regarding whether or not the cloture vote that had been scheduled on today's nominee was some sort of escalation of presidential election politics or indication of a partisan fight over judicial confirmations. Those who raise this speculation are misreading what is happening in the Senate. The fact is the cloture vote, which is now vitiated, had nothing to do with the judicial confirmation process in general or this nominee in particular. There is, unfortunately, an element of partisan gridlock that's affecting this nomination, but is not because of Republican desire to block this nominee or to shut down the Senate floor. Republicans, in fact, have been demanding more access to the Senate floor. That gridlock is the majority leader's tactics to block amendments on the Senate floor. Time after time, the majority uses parliamentary procedure to prohibit amendments, block votes, and deny or limit debate. For example, last Thursday, the Republican leader asked the majority leader if the anticipated business coming before the Senate, the Stabenow-Obama campaign tax bill, would be open for amendment. The majority leader responded that that would, quote unquote, be very doubtful. These actions, though they may be permitted by Senate rules, are contrary to the spirit of the United States Senate. Certainly, we are far from being the world's greatest deliberative body at this time. So when a senator who seeks a vote on his amendment is stymied time after time, it's not surprising that the senator would use Senate rules and procedures to bring pressure on the majority leader for a vote, in other words, to do exactly what the Senate was set up under the Constitution to do. There's a bit of sad irony that senators who are facing obstructionism are the ones who are labeled obstructionists when they are persistent in trying to bring a matter to a vote, which is customary in the United States Senate. Unfortunately, we're now seeing this obstructionism strategy creep into committee activity as well. Again, last Thursday, the Judiciary Committee marked up an important national security bill.
The bill was open to amendment, but apparently only amendments the chairman agreed with. In the Judiciary Committee, we have a long-standing practice of voting up or down on difficult and controversial issues. What happened last week undermined the responsibility of the committee to debate and address important issues, in this case, national security. The Judiciary Committee is a forum for these debates. The bill that was on the agenda is one of the few vehicles that will likely be passed before the end of the year. So it was an important and appropriate vehicle for addressing such issues once the chairman opened up the amendment process by adopting his own substitute amendment. Instead, the partisan gridlock driven by the majority leader's tactics to block amendments on the Senate floor spread now to the committee level, with made-up germaneness rules and tabling motions forced on amendments, some of which had received bipartisan support from members of the Judiciary Committee in the past. The only conclusion that can be drawn is that the Senate majority leadership wants to protect its members at every step of the legislative process from having to make difficult votes, and the majority leadership will employ any procedure it can to duck debates and to govern. Even as we turn to the 154th nominee of this president to be confirmed to the district or circuit courts, we continue to hear unsubstantiated charges of obstructionism. The fact is we have confirmed over 78% of President Obama's district nominees. At this point in his presidency, 75% of the President Bush's nominees had been confirmed. President Obama, in other words, is running ahead of President Bush on district confirmations as a percentage. I continue to hear some of my colleagues repeatedly ask the question, what is the difference about this president that he is to be treated differently than all of these other presidents? That's kind of a quote you hear around here, or a question. I won't speculate as to any inference that might be intended by that question, but I can tell you that this president is not being treated differently than previous presidents by any objective measure. This president has been treated fairly and consistently with past Senate practices. As I stated, as a percentage of nominations, this president is running ahead of the previous president. With regard to the number of confirmations, let me put that in perspective for my colleagues with an apples-to-apples comparison. As I mentioned, we have confirmed 153 district and circuit nominees of this president. We have also confirmed 2 Supreme Court nominees. Everyone understands that the Supreme Court nominations take a great deal of committee time. The last time the Senate confirmed 2 Supreme Court nominees was during President Bush's second term. And during that term, the Senate confirmed a total of 119 district and circuit court nominees. With Judge Shipp's confirmation today, which I support and which I think will be confirmed almost unanimously, we will have confirmed 35 more district and circuit court nominees for President Obama than we did for President Bush in similar circumstances. During the last presidential election, 2008, the Senate confirmed a total of 28 judges, 24 district and 4 circuit. This presidential election year, we have already exceeded those numbers. We have confirmed 5 circuit nominees, and with this one will be the 27th district judge confirmed. I'll put the balance of my statement on the record. President, I'd ask consent to
Senator from Vermont.
speak for 1 minute.
Without objection. Is there an objection?
I'd like to have a minute then, too.
Do you have a minute?